Hello YouTube, Dave here again. When I was a kid, I wasn't really huge into comic books. There were a few that I was sort of interested in, mainly things like, Ninja Turtles, a little bit of like Batman comics, but mostly when I was probably way too young, I was getting like Aliens and Predator and comics along those lines. And as I got older, I just kind of got away from them almost altogether, like completely, until I started getting more and more into tabletop role playing games. And that's because there are a ton of really cool comics that are related to RPGs, either directly or indirectly, or they're definitely inspired by them. And I want to go over some of the ones that I've got in my collection. And like I said, I'm not a huge comic person, but I've still managed to amass a pretty beefy amount. There are several that I'm not going to be showing here because they're in a box that's in a closet that's like way tucked away down in the game room here. But I have a pretty good spread of all the different things here. And we're going to go over all of these sort of as we progress through the video. And some of this is going to be a little bit of an unofficial history lesson, I guess. We're going to start with my actual like D&D directly related comics. Starting with the compilation release of the Dungeons and Dragons Classics. So this is volume one. I don't know how many more were ever released for it, but this is actually pretty cool because these are based off of, I can't remember if it was like Marvel Comics or whoever it was, because it's kind of scrubbed their identity, or like DC Comics. I have no idea who originally published these, but these were actual like comics you could buy at like grocery stores or bookstores or at like hobby shops through the 80s and maybe even into the 90s as well. So this is really, really cool. And this was a compilation that was put out by IDW, and I think they put this out in like 2010ish, 2011 is when this came out. It does use the D&D 4th edition logo there, and it actually does have like the D&D logo embossed, but these were comics that came out way back in the day. So if we take a look here, we've got issue number 1, The Gathering, in this volume. And The Gathering released in December, if I can get it to December of 1988. And you got the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. So this would have been first edition, because second edition AD&D didn't release until 1989. So this was always kind of a neat, little read through here. Again, like very, reminiscent of their time, like the art style. Like the main hero here, like the face just looks so much similar to a lot of the art styles that were used for like characters like Superman and Batman, and like just all those like protagonist, male protagonist characters kind of all had this like square jawed, like sharp cheekbone kind of look to him. Is this the one where he gets like his arm atrophied? Yeah, it is. So he gets like his arms atrophied through like a horrid wilting spell or a withering spell or something along those lines, staff of withering. And it just completely weakens him. But he does, I think, find like gauntlets of ogre power that he wears later on. That manages to get his strength back. But yeah, again, just really, really cool to see some of these comics from like the late 80s into the 90s. We got like the Centaur person there as part of the comics as well. Just a weird party composition. Includes the stuff at the back. Although we do have Thaco listed here. So that's interesting. Because Thaco, I remembered from second edition AD&D. First edition had like the to hit tables. But anyway, we got that there. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, really, really cool stuff. So we got January 1989 for, the second issue. And of course we see like our little, he's got like the little baby hands there. It reminds me of like the Deadpool movie, the first one. Like instead of, like I don't think that's how atrophy really necessarily, like it does make your arms smaller and stuff, but his hands should really be more or less the same size. But yeah, still really, really cool. Just a neat collection of comics. Like I said, I think they may have done a second volume as well. I don't have that, but what I do have is the Forgotten Realms classics. So it's got the embossed cover here. So these are Forgotten Realms comics, and as you can see, they are different characters, but this guy and this guy, they look very similar. They've got the same like color scheme sort of thing even going on. I'm pretty sure they're different characters though, because like I said, this is Forgotten Realms, and this was sort of like just the classic D&D one. But this was actually a really cool read through. And then when did this one come out? Was this 2011 as well? February 2011. Okay. So again, this was kind of interesting, especially for the. This was got two different like series here. We got the Hand of Apric, and then we've got the Dragon Reach saga. And the Dragon Reach saga was actually kind of neat. Again, we'll just take a look at the different characters. Oh, maybe it is. I mean, it looks like the same. Looks like the same clothing and everything. Maybe it is the same character. I honestly can't remember. It's been a long time since I've looked through this. But again, you got some interesting stuff in here. This might predate the D&D one, so it could be that he started in the Forgotten Realms and then appeared later, because they don't show the years for the issues in this one, right? It just says number 1. Doesn't give the month, doesn't give anything else. It does have the approved by the comics code though. But what's interesting is for the second storyline in here, you've got like somebody going around like decapitating dragons, which is kind of strange. But what's really interesting or kind of neat about this one here is like we do have this like Council of Worms type of thing, which is kind of neat. But what I always remember about this is the fact that in this particular storyline, they actually end up summoning and using, if I can find it here, the Tarrasque. So they actually have the Tarrasque in here. And again, very interesting take on it. But it is undoubtedly the Tarrasque. You can see like the decapitated dragon there. There's the Tarrasque again. Kind of looks like the beast creature from Dinosaurs, the one that lived in like the swamp. But again, just really cool to see these characters, like you see it walking away, like the turtle shell kind of thing. I love that image there of it. So yeah, just kind of cool, like 80s, 90s, whatever these were, like AD&D comics from back in the day is really cool to see. Now, I think there was a bit of a gap, like from like the 2nd to 3rd edition era, but was it Devil's Due Publishing, which I don't think they're around anymore. But in the early 2000s, I want to say, do they have a year in here? 2005. Like 2004, 2005. They started releasing comic adaptations of some of the Legend of Drizzt novels. So we have things like Homeland. So this was book 1 of The Legend of Drizzt. And again, this is a really cool comic. The cover, it's a hardcover there. It has like the gold leaf stuff. But these were initially like 4-volume comics. So I would buy the comics, and then when the hardcover came out, I would buy the hardcover, and I think I gave the comics away to somebody that was interested in them. But yeah, really, really cool artwork here. You got, it doesn't shy away from, graphic violence and stuff like that. Just really kind of neat to see, like, these Legend of Drizzt books. And, like I said, not only did they do Homeland, but they also did Exile. So this is the one where he fled Menzoberranzan. And this is where, like, the hunter aspect of his character started to appear. So, like, he's fighting a basilisk there and just, like, gouges its eyes out with the scimitars. They meet Clacker in here somewhere as well. So he was the the Pesh, I think it's called, that was polymorphed into a hooked horror, and as he as he goes, he becomes more and more obsessed with or he becomes more and more like a hooked horror, becomes a bit more bestial until he completely I think loses his identity. In the end, he's also being chased down by the reanimated revenant version of his own father. It's just a really cool story. They get taken over by mind flayers for a bit until Guinevere destroys the Elder Brain. Just again, really, really awesome. A great adaptation of the novel as well. And then we've got Sojourn here, where he makes his way to the surface. And again, we're just going to kind of flip through it here just a little bit. So we got the Barghast there. We got the Quickling that he catches. The adventuring party that he sort of travels with for a little while there. His meeting with Montolio, the blind ranger, who starts training Drizzt in the way of Myliki. Again, just really, really cool adaptations. They also did the Icewind Dale trilogy, so we have the Crystal Shard, and what was kind of interesting, I guess, about the artwork and the Crystal, was it the Crystal Shard? It might not have been Crystal Shard, it might have been a little bit later, but there's one where the artwork that they did, the art style they used for Drizzt, I just did not particularly care for. But anyway, we got the Companions of the Hall sort of all forming together here. We got Wulfgar and Bruenor. We got Regis, the Rumblebelly, the Halfling, and then of course Aker Kessel, along with Ertu and the Crystal Shard itself, which is a big part of the Rime of the Frost Maiden storyline, which I'm currently running for D&D 5e. So we had that. We also had Streams of Silver, where the Companions of the Hall find Mithril Hall. So again, just kind of cool to see these different adaptations sort of come to the forefront here. And then finally, we've got the Halfling's Gem. So the Halfling's Gem is where Regis, the Halfling, he fled. He fled to escape where he was rejected. I can't remember the Kalimport. Was it Kalimport? I think it was Kalimport. And essentially, his past sort of catches up with them, kind of thing. But still, really, really cool. These are awesome comics. I really loved having these, and like I said, I would buy the individual issues, and then when the hardcover came out, I would buy the hardcover, and I'm pretty sure I gave them to a friend of mine who was also into the Legend of Drizzt stuff. So those were the 3rd edition or 3.5 era D&D comics. IDW, who did those compilation books that we saw earlier, didn't just do those, but they also released their own line of D&D comics during the 4E era as well. And I have the compilations of them here. So there's the Dungeons & Dragons Shadow Plague, with the Fells 5 characters, the heroes here. And this was around the time that D&D Essentials had released. So again, this probably would have been 2000 and so this says 2012. This is probably for the booklet itself. But this would have been 2010, 2011 for the individual comics. And again, these were really cool. I liked the Adric Fell character. He's kind of he's one of those kind of snarky type of characters, kind of resigned to his fate as a almost reluctant hero type of character. You got, I think that's Varys. I remember him, the ranger there. And again, just really cool comics like the Orphanarium, which has got to be a reference to Futurama, but you got all these the children being taken over. Just again, these were just kind of fun to read. I loved having these back in the day. And what was also kind of cool, and I don't know if they're in the individual chapters, I think they're at the back of the book, but at the end of each of these issues, they would have something a little bonus thing that was thrown in there. So We've got, or maybe these were even alternate covers, I can't remember. But we have like Adric Fell, so we got like the actual stat blocks using the D&D Essentials character sheet, which is really cool to see. We got the character sketch there, so that's kind of neat. Then we got Bree Three Hands. There we go. That's the halfling thief, and it gives you like character notes, which is like their background for everybody except for Adric, which was interesting. So we have her. We've got Caldrun. So he was the dwarf paladin. Tisha Swornheart, the warlock, the tiefling warlock. There's Varys, and he is the elf ranger. The scout character there, I really liked his character quite a bit. And there's some advertisements actually for some of the other D&D things. So there's those classics that I've shown off there. They did do a Dark Sun series of comics as well, but I will be honest, I never actually... I don't think I ever ended up collecting that one. But we do have Shadow Plague, which was the first story. Then there is the First Encounters. So First Encounters, and this was probably also show as like a 2012. Oh, it's 2011. Okay, so they did the hardcovers first and the soft covers later. But this is sort of like the origin story, I guess, of like how the characters all kind of came together and met. Which again is kind of a neat thing. Like you do the story with them, and then you have more like well, it's a story, but it has like prequel elements into it as well, if I recall correctly. I haven't read these in over a decade now, but I just recently got these from Harry Tarantula. Actually ordered them from their store, had them ordered online, and again, just really cool. I love the old D&D comics. Even during this period, like I wasn't a huge comic guy, but the gaming comics really did sort of bring me back into it. And let's take a look and see if there's any extra stuff that's included at the back of this book. So we would have the alternate covers, and this is actually really cool. So this is like based off like the old school module covers. Oh, this is an adventure. Oh my goodness, never mind. This is actually an adventure. It's not an alternate cover. Oh my god. I haven't looked at this since I bought it. But yeah, this is an actual, honest to goodness, adventure. So we got like the maps there. Oh man. Okay, I kind of like this one. That's neat. So that's like a full-on little module included. I wonder how that would have been done. I can't remember how that was done in the initial comics, if it was done like location by location. But it even has like the stat blocks for the creatures in there. So that is pretty awesome to see. So that's the second one, First Encounters. That's what that was called, and then this one was called Down. And I think this is the one where they go to the keep on the Shadowfell, as it like transitions between different planes of existence. I think this is the one. I'm not going to probably find any conclusive evidence of that right away. But I think that's the one where they go to the keep on the Shadowfell, and it transitions back to the Shadowfell, and they got to fight their way back out. So again, really cool stuff there. I like the sort of like the Wolverine inspiration for the comic. Oh man, does the dwarf actually? Okay, no, he's fine. So yeah, again, these are just like, it was just kind of fun to look through these. One of these days, I really want to read these through again. And of course, you got the classic 4th edition style Beholder there. That's actually the Eye of Flame, I'm pretty sure, but that is so awesome. I love that style of like the look of the Beholders there. Let's see if there's anything unique or interesting at the back of this one. And Beholders. I'm totally sold there when it comes to that. Let's see. Okay, I guess that's one page. Nope. That is 2 pages. Okay. We got sketch covers. And then looks like, oh, we actually got some creature stats in there as well. So not as much for extras in there, but still really cool nonetheless. Also, during the IDW 4th edition days, they actually had some comics set in the Eberron setting, including, although it is kind of buried away, I'll have to see if I can dig it out one of these days, but they had like a Dungeons and Dragons and Call of Cthulhu crossover that took place in the Eberron setting as well. But yeah, we got like the annual here, and this one's actually, again, I really like these because you've got what's the name of the character? Abraxas Wren. He's this really pompous, over-the-top investigator, like, Sherlock Holmes type, but with an absolutely massive ego behind him here. Just a really great character, like super annoying, but just like really lovable sort of at the same time. So that was cool to see as well. Like, so they also did like a Call of Cthulhu crossover event as well, which I have the comics for, but not here. All right, then we go into the 5th edition D&D eras. And I have this one compilation book as well as a couple of other individual ones. I just recently picked this up, but this is Days of Endless Adventure. And this is done like I think it's Jim Zub. This guy does some awesome work, actually. He also has like a Conan series of comics as well. So if you're into like the Conan the Barbarian stuff, you should really check out his work on that. But we've got, again, just this is a compilation of several different storylines, including one of the ones that I'm actually going to be showing here next, which is one of the individual ones that I've had before. But this was actually kind of neat because, again, this is like in the 5th edition D&D era. But one of the things that they end up doing with this, if we can find it here, is they bring back Minsc and Boo. Two of the most popular characters, or well-known characters, I guess I should say, from the Baldur's Gate video game. So there was this statue in the city of Baldur's Gate called the Beloved Ranger, and it was Minsc, right? Minsc holding Boo, and it turns out it was actually like him being petrified. And with this wizard character, sorceress character, actually, because she succumbs to wild magic, it ends up hitting the statue, and it brings Minsc back. And Minsc is just so unbelievably awesome here. And I can't remember if this one has one of the issues of this series, which was absolutely incredible. And I have the individual comic. I'll have to see if I can find it. It might not be in this compilation, but there was one series where the final installment in the storyline, I don't think it's in here, but the final installment in the storyline was just like Boo doing stuff, and I think he like breaks up this like criminal like this thieves guild, or these would-be like criminal ring that was trying to take root in the Forgotten Realm, or in Baldur's Gate, and it's just this little giant or miniature gigantic space hamster completely destroying their plans, while the other characters are completely like off just doing mundane things. And then when they come back, like Boo is back home and he's sleeping in like the exact same position that he was in when everybody left, and like Minsc sort of laments how lazy Boo is. So it's just a really cool comic there, and I don't think it's in here. I'm not going to go like really digging for it. But again, the 5e ones, they had all kinds of different, they were tying them to the storylines that were going on at the time. So you had things like, for example, you had the Shadows of the Vampire. So this was during the Curse of Strahd storyline. They also had stuff during like Storm King's Thunder. I think one of them was, what are the different stories here? Hold on. Let me look at the index here. So you had the Frost Giant's Fury, which was the Storm King's Thunder, Shadows of the Vampire, okay, and then just Return to Baldur's Gate, which was its own separate thing. But they did do some other ones, I think, as well, that were connecting everything. But yeah, really awesome. And again, they brought back Minsc, and you can't argue with anything that's bringing Minsc back. to the D&D world. They also did a Dragonlance one here, and I can't remember if this was an adaptation of an actual novel. I don't know a ton about the Dragonlance novels, but we have the Legend of Huma here. So it says the world of Krynn is under siege by the dark goddess Takesis, led by renegade wizard Galen Drakos. Takesis' forces of evil threaten to conquer all. The only resistance to the Dark Queen are the Knights of Somalia. No, not Somalia, oh my god. Solamnia. And their few allies. One knight rises from their ranks, a knight destined to become the greatest hero of Krynn. This is the story, The Legend of Huma. Adapts the novel. Yeah. So this is based off the actual Dragonlance novel here. But again, Dragonlance was one of the first D&D settings that I ever owned. And so it was really cool to have a comic series set in there. Now, lastly, for the D&D side of things, although we're not done, there was also another series here where I bought the individual comics. And then when the trade came out, I bought the trade and gave the comics to a friend of mine who was also into these types of stories. This is the Rick and Morty versus Dungeons and Dragons series. Now, the Wizards of the Coast, with this crossover thing, would release a starter set called Dungeons and Dragons versus Rick and Morty. So they kind of flipped the tables there on them. But yeah, this is just super cool. And, I really love Rick and Morty. I know there are people out there that think it's this like really cerebral show that you have to be a genius to be able to comprehend. But it's also like filled with poop and fart jokes, so it's really not that deep, if we're going to be completely and totally honest. But it's a fun show. And this is a really cool comic series where like Dungeons and Dragons has become super popular. Like, you got the player's handbook there being held by this girl that, Morty's got a bit of a crush on. So he starts to learn, or to want to learn, how to play Dungeons and Dragons. Like, he finds Critical Role and Acquisitions Incorporated, goes to the game store. We got the old first edition. Like, there's some really cool callback stuff here. So that's the first edition AD&D DMG. You've got the basic and expert rules here as well. So basic, expert, and there's the 5th edition starter set. So that's really cool. And then we got the back of the DMG. So again, the people that made this, like, they really did care about this. They've got the Player's Handbook 2, I think that is. Again, the starter set. I think that's the Danger at Dunwater? No. Saltmarsh. Ghost of Saltmarsh module cover there. I'm pretty sure is what that is. That's the monster manual, the DMG. He's got his multicolored dice from some like the older starter sets and stuff. And then, of course, he finds out that Rick is also into gaming, but he's into like the really old school, he's one of those like over the top grognard type of characters. Like he's just like, everything's just like anything after like 1st edition he can't stand. So it's really kind of neat. And then, of course, they cross over to a D&D realm where they can actually like portray different characters. And I think Morty keeps dying and having his character changed. I think that happens kind of throughout the course of this. Oh, maybe it's not a world. Maybe it's not a planet. It must be Blitz and Chits. Yeah, it must be. It must be the old arcade thing there. But yeah, anyway, it's still really, really cool. The other characters from the show, like, they have their, like, you've got Summer, of course, who is this sociopathic rogue. You've got Beth, which I think she's a barbarian. And Morty the monk. I don't think he lasts particularly long. And then Jerry comes in as this like ultra intelligent and charismatic wizard. And of course, you got the callback to the animated series there. That is the reprint of the DMG with like the wizard kind of coming through the door for the 1st edition, like the orange spine version there. Oh, and you got the roller coaster ride entrance for the D&D cartoon show as well. So again, just really kind of cool to see these. And then I think at the back of the book, again, they got like the alternate covers, which is really cool to see. Again, like there's the basic expert or the basic artwork there. Of course, you got like Rick riding an owl bear and Morty on the Beholder. The Displacer Beast, the giant D20 Mimic. That's actually really cool looking Beholder. Some actually really cool artwork in there. What is that? Slippery Stairs, or whatever his name was. That was pretty cool as well. The eye hole. The eye hole man. Sanathar. So there were some really cool things here. They also had a blank character sheet for some reason, but they also have the characters from the show. So or from the comic. So in this one, actually, Morty becomes this. I guess this must be towards the end here, but he becomes this rogue character, and then Summer becomes an archer. You've got Jerry's wizard there with the 16 intelligence, 16 charisma, but then the 12 wisdom. And then G. Willikers pedal butt when they turned Rick into a bard, the class that he hated the most. And then there's Alcazar, his original character from the first edition days, who's just like the best at everything. So really, really cool stuff there. They also did a second series. So this is Rick and Morty vs. Dungeons & Dragons 2 Painscape. This has the cover from the... oh my god, why am I blanking on names today? This was the Dungeon of the Mad Mage cover from the D&D 5th edition module there. So that's like Alistair Blackcloak. And then you got like Morty there as the Death Tyrant Beholder. Excuse me. The Green Devil face from Tomb of Annihilation. So again, and just a cool little series of comics. You got again a lot of like cool throwbacks to some of the different D&D modules and stuff. Like in this world, Dungeons & Dragons becomes like an esport. There is Amber Castle. So again, just some cool little references there. We got like the second storyline again with the Rick and Morty characters going back into like a Dungeons and Dragons type of thing. I think this is where like one of the Ricks tries to like trap the other Rick or something. I can't remember all the details there, but anyway. Again, we got the blank character sheets. We got Rick's Wizard Rick character. And it's really, really cool artwork. Like, I really like a lot of the artwork for these covers. A lot of these covers were like hard to like special editions, or like could only be purchased at stores with like a certain ranking or stuff like that. It was really weird. I didn't bother trying to do any of that. I just got the basic cover because I was going to get the trades anyway. Then we got Wizard Fighter Rick. And then we've got Wizard Fighter Rogue Rick. So going through the different dual classing here. So Wizard Fighter Rogue Claire Rick. And there's the advertisement for the starter set. So that's really, really cool. So those are some of like the D&D comics from back in the day. And it's kind of fun to reminisce over some of those. I have to read through a lot of these again. It's been a long time. I especially want to go through those 4th edition ones with Adric Fell and the Fells 5. But there's more than just the Dungeons & Dragons specific comics. There are also some really great like gaming related comics out there as well. And I've got some of my favorites here to show off. So one of my all-time favorites would have to be Nodwick. So the Nodwick thing, it's all like, it's not officially D&D or stuff like that, but it basically is all sort of in character. There was a comic that came out afterwards. I forget the name of it, by the same guy. And it had like the players who would play those characters in the games as like separate things. But in here, like these are just like the characters acting as if they're part of the world. And so you've got like the best part of the whole thing though would have to be the Nodwick character. So he's a henchman. And this is like one of those like old school D&D type of things where, you would hire henchmen to carry things for you. And you've got these adventurers there that are just completely reckless and have no regard for like the safety of really especially Nodwick here. So he gets like dismembered. He suffers horrible fates all the time. But you have the cleric here, and again I'm blanking on some of the names here. But the cleric, she's actually got like sort of a kind heart, but she also doesn't always view like the henchmen as really like people so much as just a resource. But she's got this like magical duct tape that repairs all like, cures all wounds type of thing. So she's like constantly just duct taping Nodwick back up here. And of course, with henchmen, they can carry anything, right? They can carry ridiculous amounts of gear and stuff with them. Like you can see, he's always got a bunch of stuff, and like Nodwick is really the main character here. It's a really fun comic. Going through and just reading the different stories there, the different horrible things that they do to this poor henchman character, who's part of like a union of henchmen, and they're always getting shafted when it comes to like their contract negotiations. It's just a really fun, again, a really cool story, a really cool comic idea. And like Planescape gourmet coffee. So this would have been something like they would have had strips in like Dungeon Magazine, but it also was its own comic series here. And this is Holland Assets. This is the compilation of the Nodwick comic book issues 1 through 12. So 1 through 6 being Chronicles 1. And then 7 through 12 being Chronicles 2. So again, just some really cool stuff in here. I absolutely love these. I would highly recommend if you can find the Nodwick. I think the comics are still available online, so that's definitely worth checking out. Another amazing gaming comic out there that I cannot recommend enough is Knights of the Dinner Table. So they have like an ongoing comic series. They've got their Bundles of Trouble, but this is probably my favorite story in all of Knights of the Dinner Table history. So this is like a group of characters that they play RPGs, and you've got most of the characters are like your typical like hack and slash power gaming rules lawyering types, especially Brian here. Super rules lawyery, and then you've got the two just reckless hack and slashers in Bob and Dave, and then you have Sarah, who's actually a really good player who loves to role play and really wants to get into the story, and everybody's always kind of frustrated with how she approaches things because everybody else just wants to blast things with their like waste it with their crossbow, or just hack at them with their plus 12 like Hackmaster sword, and then of course you've got Teflon Billy, the wizard who always escapes everything, and then you got BA, the sort of beleaguered game master who's constantly trying to figure out ways to mess with his players. Like it's a very toxic gaming group that they have there, and like BA will go to his local store, Weird Pete's, and will get advice from Weird Pete, and Weird Pete's always trying to sell him like garbage, like minis that were miscast, so that he has like a whole bunch of them, and like just sort of things along those lines. But the Bag War story, this one is awesome. So I don't want to go too much into it, but the basic premise is that the characters hire a band of mercenaries to help them take out this dragon Rotgut. And when they finally take the dragon, they finally manage to kill the dragon, slay the dragon, and take all of its treasure, which a lot of it was not like gold coins, but it actually had most of his wealth, most of his hoard was like in raw materials. So he had like like bricks and lumber and like foods. Like he just had all this like weird stuff that like his dragon hoard was made of. So they shoved it all into this bag of holding. And when they enter a town later on, the town has a tax for anybody crossing through the gate into the town. So it's like, I think it's like 5 silver, something like that per person, but they've got a whole mercenary band with them. So the wizard, Brian's character, Teflon Billy, convinces the mercenaries to march into the bag of holding so that they can avoid paying the gate tax, because essentially the gate tax would have to come out of the treasure hoard, which would mean less money for the mercenary captain and his mercenaries. So he managed to convince them all to wait in the bag of holding, and then the players just kind of forget that they have them. And it's actually kind of neat because later on, they're doing like a separate adventure that's like months later. And they're trying to like remember what they have in their bag of holding. So Brian pulls out his list of everything that's in there, and he's just going through and reading all this stuff off, and then all of a sudden he just goes, "Uh oh," because like they left the mercenaries in there. So when they try to pull something out from the bag later, they actually get attacked by like something being launched from a catapult towards them, because the mercenaries use the materials inside to basically make a fort. And it's a hilarious storyline. It's just you've got to read it. I don't want to give away any more than that, but yeah, if you can read the Bag Wars saga, I cannot recommend it enough. All right, going back to, again, some like Dungeon Magazine and Dragon Magazine. One of my favorite comic strips in there had to be Zugonia. So this is the trade that they made for this one, called a Slice of Death. And again, this is another really cool comic. You've got the thief character who just absolutely does not care whatsoever. You have the dwarf. I can't remember if he's a dwarf fighter or like a dwarf paladin, but he's always getting like the crappy end of the stick there. Like he ends up getting killed all the time and having to be raised. And then you've got the leader of the group, the fighter, who's just completely done with all the group's nonsense. So yeah, just again, such a great comic. Like when the rogue character gets polymorphed into a frog by, I think that's a Hukiva or a Lich. He ends up disrupting the Lich's spellcasting by jumping into the Lich's skull and croaking every time he's like going through the verbal components of his spell to ruin it. Again, just absolutely amazing comics here. But they also have, towards the back of it here, they also should have, I believe, all the strips from Mount Zagone, which was from the Dungeon Magazine. And this has, I think her name is Helena, and she's this druid who is the most evil character that you have ever seen. It's just, she is just so, just so hilarious. So again, another amazing comic there. She has this mushroom in a pot, that like a potted plant mushroom that she talks to. I think it talks back to her, actually. Like, I think it is like legitimately sentient, or at least she hears it. But others like don't. So she's definitely not only evil but insane. And then finally, the last one that I want to go through here today is, again, another awesome comic strip. It's an online comic that I think is still easily accessible today, or should be. I don't know if they're still making it. I've got to be honest, it's been a few years since I've checked in on it. But I loved these back in the day, and that was The Order of the Stick. So this was made by Rich Burlow. And he was, I guess he was like the runner-up in the D&D campaign setting contest that led to the creation of Eberron. And so he used the world that he created, and he made a comic series out of it. And you've got all of these, like, again, the really cool characters. You've got like the foreword, some from like legitimate people in the business, like James Wyatt, and then you've got like prefaces from the characters in the comic, and you got Belcar Bitterleaf. He is this evil, definitely evil halfling ranger, and you have like Elon or Elon. He is he's like the just completely dim-witted bard. You've got Roy, who is the highly intelligent fighter, and you got the thief character. I forget her name off the top of my head. Rory Greenhilt. Does he go through and introduce the rest of them? Yeah, Haley Starshine, so she's the thief who's constantly trying to steal stuff. Durkon Thundershield. Oh man, I just realized I use Thundershield all the time. I guess I didn't even realize or remember that came from the comic there. But yeah, he's a dwarf cleric, and there's one comic in here that I absolutely love, where basically he's like attacking a goblin or an orc, and I don't know if I'm going to find it quickly or easily, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. But he goes through and like he swings at the goblin, misses, right, and then you have one of the other characters say, "Oh, don't forget, we cast this, which gives you +1." So like it's a very like fourth wall breaking comic. So it's like, remember, you get +1, and then all of a sudden like the goblin in the background like reacts like they're being hit. And it's like, oh, and don't forget, like, you also had this bonus previously, so that other attack that you rolled last round, that should hit as well. And then the goblin takes another hit. And it's like, and don't forget, you have a racial bonus to fighting these creatures, so that other hit should have actually been a crit. And it just, like, the goblin gets killed in the background. And it's, again, just, like, it's like you would be a really great fighter if you were better at math. And it's kind of making fun of the fact that third edition had a ton of like little bonuses and stuff that you had to keep track of all the time. You've got a character like the bard, again, like he's wearing armor that makes it hard for him to sneak around because it has a check penalty. So he decides that the way to get rid of that and to become a master at stealth is to go around naked. Again, just really awesome stuff. There's the running gag of how the ninjas, their stealth is so high, and these characters like spot or listen is so low that they like nobody ever notices that they're there. So again, there's just some great stories in here. I also like when the evil priest tries to cast Unholy Blight on the characters, which like holds them all, paralyzes them all, and then when he tries to do the same thing to Belcar just kills him. And it's like, hey, why was it Belcar? It's like, best not to dwell on it. So, again, just really, really cool comic series. They have, like, Giant in the Playground is, like, the website that you can go to read these. But they did do several of these trades. So, there was the first one here. So, we've got Dungeon Crawling Fools, which was number 1. But we also had some prequel issues, and I think there's even more of them now. But the ones that I have is on the origin of PCs, which actually goes over how all the characters became part of the party. And because it's a prequel, it's actually, all done in black and white to symbolize that, it's a flashback type of thing. But this is issue 0 or book 0 because the first one was book 1. But there was also the Start of Darkness. Now this one actually also is once again in black and white because it's like a flashback thing. Although there are some cool like full color pages with like colored pencil art and stuff, but this is book -1, and like I said, I think they've done other ones since, but we also continue to go forward with the comic series, and we've got No Cure for the Paladin Blues, and this might be one of my favorite of the issues that are in here, like of the trades. Just like the story gets really, really good going throughout all this. You have like the evil adventuring party, which every character sort of like the opposite of the Order of the Stick characters. And then, if instead of Elin, you had Nail, which is just, Elin's name backwards. And of course, because he's like the evil twin brother to the Bard here, he has a goatee because that's going back to like the Star Trek thing. That means that like the characters have to be evil. So we got No Cure for the Paladin Blues. Then we have War and XP. So this is book number 3. And again, like they kind of keep getting bigger and more like grandiose as the stories go. So really, really cool stuff. Oh, I think also in this one, No Cure for the Paladin Blues, the characters were defeated. Like the Lich was defeated at the end of the like book 1. So they end up like they play on the fact that like Liches recorporate after a certain period of time. But instead of it just being like all at once, you have like different parts of the Lich appear at different times. So like the skull starts first, and then he's going through, and like his body starts to come back, and his goblin underling starts getting a little snarky with him. So he's like, "Oh, like hey, look, I just regenerated a finger. Guess which one?" So again, I love these. They're so good. They're just so great. I really got to get back into like trying to read through these again, and getting fully caught up. In the 4th book was called Don't Split the Party. I know there's been others that have come out since, but this is where I am in the physical product category. But yeah, again, just a comic book that is all about like, or initially it was all about like fourth wall breaking, D&D in jokes. Like the very first actual comic in the series was going over the changes between 3.0 and 3.5, which has Belkar, the halfling there, because he's a small character and like all the other characters are being upgraded for 3.5. Like the Bard gets the proficiency in the chain shirt. It's like, oh, we're being upgraded to 3.5, and like the Belkar's like, really excited because like the Ranger's got to be getting a lot better, right? So he's got this, his blade there, and it just goes wah wah wah, and it shrinks like weapon shrinkage. So he gets upset, and then the Bard also gets extra skill points. So again, it was like all built around like just in jokes at the time, but it has really evolved into a really awesome storytelling and world building thing. Like I think they did a really great job with it, transitioning it from kind of like taking the pot shots into something a bit more like narrative focused. And again, they did an absolutely fantastic job with it. So anyway, that was a look at some of the the gaming related comics that I have in my collection. I absolutely love these. I feel like, sort of like the art of like the gaming comic. I'm sure there's still a bunch around that are still kind of going on, but it does kind of feel sometimes like we're losing a little something, like having some of these start in the pages of Dragon Magazine or Dungeon Magazine and eventually like get their own like comic series, or, getting their own compilation books released. Like I kind of miss stuff like that these days. So if there are any good gaming related comics that are out there, let me know in the comments below. I would really love to check out some more. There were also some other great ones. There was like Dork Tower from back in the day. There are like actual like trades of those as well. I have one, but I have no idea where it is. I'm hoping that it survived the move. So there's stuff like that. It just, again, really, really awesome stuff. So let me know what are some of your favorite gaming related comics in the comments section below. Thank you all so very much for your time. I do appreciate it. We will see you in the next one. Until then, take care.